All right, everybody. Hope you've had a good lunch and before that, excellent workshops. Just before we kick off the presentation of the workshops, I want to let you know that in today's newspaper, in the city newspaper, there's a story about our seminar. So if you're interested, we'll pass around a couple of the newspapers and you can have a look, and you will benefit from the fact that if you know German, then you might understand a bit better, but yes. So, first of all, I think we have cultural marketing here online to present their work and what they did today in their field trip to us. So please come to the stage.
Hi. Oh yeah, do I need to be on camera? Oh. But yes, hello. I'm Mia Brunila from Kotka, and we had a lovely, actually more of a field trip than a workshop. We went to visit the Kunsthalle, which is a museum for modern art here in Rostock, as well as the former monastery that is currently, what's the official name of the museum? Kulturschrank. Yeah, historical museum. And it was particularly interesting because the Kunsthalle, it was built during the Soviet era in '69, and what they're now displaying is Soviet time art and DDR, to be specific. And what actually it was. Well, firstly, I have to say it's sort of an interesting building in itself, and the exhibition space that they have. But what I found perhaps the most interesting is that it's all geared towards the domestic market, and not so much towards tourism, because all the materials and displays there are in German. Whereas, for example, in Kotka, the museums that we have are more towards tourists. So we have materials in Finnish, English, and Russian, because to us, Russia is a big market because we're close to the border, so we get a lot of Russian tourists come in. And I think that's something also shared here in Rostock, is that it's a market that could sort of be perhaps utilized even more, because at least in Finland we've discovered that Russians are very interested in history and how it relates, especially if the history relates to them. And I think here it would be a lot of things that they remember, or they can relate to, that they could then want to travel to Rostock for that. And that's what we discovered in Finland. But I mean, we had a lovely day touring the city of Rostock, and that's about the end of the cultural workshop.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet. Does anybody have any any questions about this field trip? Alexandra?
As I know, you saw the exhibition, and can you say some your impressions about the exhibitions? And have you ever visited something similar in Finland?
I mean, I'm not an art expert, so I won't go into the art itself. Well, my personal opinion, I mean, I wish there would have been more stories about who the artists are and why they've been chosen. I mean, we got that from our personal tour, but a regular visitor won't have that opportunity, because I'm a very lazy person. So in terms of when I go to a museum, I really enjoy if there are stories to me that have already been told. I get the idea there is for people to, and this is especially with art, is that people to have their own interpretation, but without any background information, it's a bit difficult to get a grasp grasp of what's being displayed. So I think that's something that could be made use of. But one thing that I really enjoyed is that they had this Edirama display at the museum, which was a really impressive space, and it was very. This is my favorite topic at the moment, but museums and exhibitions having Insta-worthy spaces, so places where people can go and take a photo, and then they post it on social media, and then that attracts more people to visit that place. In Finland, that's a huge thing these days, and we have huge lines to certain museums because everybody wants to get that shot of that place because it's Insta-worthy. And I think that Edirama exhibition is definitely something that is. It's on my Instagram already. It's my yeah. But you can look, and I think that's something. Also, social media presence, more on like hashtags, proper geotags, that kind of things, to include social marketing. But again, this is something that we also struggle in Kotka, is to bring that sort of level of corporate, commercial aspect to culture. But that's how you then get more visitors. Kotka is a smaller city than Rostock, but we had 145,000 visitors to our museum, which I took is quite a bit more than Rostock museums have.
For you, I'm sorry, but I have one more question for you. And when we're speaking about marketing, and Rostock mostly lives from tourism, and especially this exhibition and the places you visited during your field trip, what marketing should Rostock do so the people, let's say from Finland or Scandinavia, come here to see culture?
I think it relates to context. So if you tell people how it relates to them, Finnish, I know, for example, my husband would be interested in that art museum because it has that, because the art also tells a story of a past time that relates to when Europe was divided. And I think that's a story that would interest beyond the art, because that would then take it to history and even sort of that level. Have marketing material in several languages, at least in English, because everything was in German, for example, at Kunsthalle. But then, with them, I don't actually work in tourism, so I don't know what's the best promotion for tourism. But then, what I use, and actually what they said at the museum is as well, if you get the young people to come, then the elderly will, well, not elderly, but older people will follow. So proper hashtags, good use of social media, telling stories, sort of not humanizing the whole thing. Because I think for everyone, there's a high threshold to enter these what could be considered as high culture. So to make it more accessible in terms of image, so it's for everyone, not just for the elite.
Great, thank you so much. Up next we have the business group. Where are you guys? Are you coming, everybody, or? Yeah. Okay, you can use this and you can use those as well.
You can maybe start and I do my computer.
Okay. Yes.
Aber ihr könnt anfangen und ich zeige.
Okay. The purpose of our group was to come up with actions, or probably, first of all, a message to attract people into vocational training, because we found out, or it's a fact, that there's a big lack of people. And so we had a SWOT analysis, and this we wanted to present. But here are the measures, but probably first with these
No, we will show the SWOT analysis too. Just give me a second. You can tell a little bit. You remember?
A little bit. Yes.
What you maybe can present what SWOT analysis is, because we also talk a little bit about it.
Strengths, weakness. What is the reason why people don't? Why do they choose to study and not to go in a company to learn something with their hands, probably? And we found out that, especially with Alexandra, that she told us if you are abroad, she originally comes from Riga, that if you decide to study, then it's for all life. You can't change. It's not very flexible. And if you're not silly, she said, then you study, and that's not in Germany. It's, we say also intelligent people. It's absolutely okay to say, okay, we want to learn something, and so it must, nevertheless, it must be more attractive to go in companies, and so we wrote down some different points which are really important, that probably you get money starting after school, that you are you can have your own flat as somebody who has vocational training, and it's a difference in contrast to students who have to pay it by their parents, for instance. That's one big thing, which is a strength. Other strengths, you wrote it also on your.
Maybe I can add just for the start. For me, it was interesting when we started, just to define what we were actually trying to look for or to look at, because our workshop was called Business Marketing, which is a really, really broad field, and we decided to make it a little bit more specific. While we were saying we would like to market education, just to have something beforehand before we can talk about the business, because that's of course where all the business comes from. And not only were we getting more specific for education, which can be divided again in university education, but also in vocational training. And this is pretty much because having Frau Zinsgraf here from the Chamber of Commerce is a very, very important topic in Rostock. And we figured in order to find a marketing strategy, we should look at a SWOT analysis first. So that's why we started with strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we wrote this all on a nice big board, and I hope it'll come up soon, but just to have this as a little introduction, because that was important for me, that this was what we were looking at. And because, of course, in 2 hours we cannot find a solution for Germany or the Baltic, we decided to look at Rostock and its region.
Right. As a weakness, I remember that we found out that there's also parents want to have a certain status, that they children are doctor or something like this, and this is very, there's a broad variety in Germany. So, but some interesting points, but they are there now, the outcome. So probably should give you the time.
We have some time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's here, but it's not good to see, I think, because It's putting it, it's making it smaller while sending through an email. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we should go over and just grab it.
Yes.
It would probably help.
I'll try once more, and
Would be best, I think.
because the thing is really heavy. Versuchen wir mitteln.
I will help to transport this, isn't it?
I want to give it a try first. I guess we took more pictures. We took closer ones too. So then we have to switch between pictures. That might be fine.
Yeah, let's give him a try. I can give you a hint from
But
here on.
probably now we have the choice to ask you whether in our country, in your countries, there's also a lack of people working in businesses. Is there a lack of young people in companies? We have here many companies. They are looking for people but don't find some. And is the situation the same probably in Finland or Lithuania?
Do you mean directly from school or?
Yes, after school, yes.
Yeah, what we mean, these are not the people who finish the higher degree and go to the university, but people who do vocational trainings, technical or special. For example, after school they go and learn how to be a cook, or how to be a hairdresser, or how to be a mechanic.
At the actual working place.
Exactly. In Germany, it's like this: you work and you go to the school. It's the same. You do it for 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years, exactly.
And after that, you are categorized to work there. And if you go to the university, it's 3 years more at the school, doing that's German called Abitur, these big exams. And later on, you go to university. This means additional 5 years more. Not, I think it's really German thing, but maybe more or less each country has something similar. Yeah, for example, let's say in your countries, how you train people who are not going to the university and get higher education. Maybe you can take the mic from Seb. Nein, da ist
Okay. Yes.
richtig viel.
In Finnish, in Finland we do have a vocational and then the Abitur equivalent, the high school, but we haven't got a shortage really of the sort of low-skilled workers. For example, in my region, we've got a shortage of higher educated people in that the metropolitan area, Helsinki area, is the one that people gravitate towards, because we haven't got a university in our city. So people who get higher education, they move to a university city, and then it would be up to us to then draw them back to Kotka, for example. But then they quite often then stay in the university cities or move to Helsinki. But yeah, for us it's a question of university educated people and not being able to get those. For the other jobs, I haven't heard of a shortage.
It's the same with Rostock. I think in Rostock, yeah, it's the university city, so that's not the big problem from young people going to university. But around Rostock, it's more complicated. And also Rostock, people who didn't went to university, they was also a big problem. And then there are some cooks. We found out that there are some cooks probably. They will be in a vocational training here, but then they earn more money in the south of Germany, for instance, and then they are lost for this region here.
I think they're bringing the board. Yeah. Okay, then I
And
don't need to do that.
threads. Okay.
Yeah, and what was about the marketing? So we talked. Nee. Du kannst auch von mir das stellen. What about marketing? We talked how we do this attractive. The problem is we have the lack of these professional trained people, and the solution should be which marketing tools we use to make it, let's say, sexy for youngsters today, so they decide not to go to the university but go to vocational training and start to work preferably in Rostock or Mecklenburg-Western Pomerania.
Exactly. And then as a strength, we think that vocational training, yes, we discussed it. It's a mix of school and job, and that's very different from university, which is very theoretical, academic, and it's a mixture between school and job. Here in the region, it's very interesting for young people. And then you have also, because it's standardized, you have also the chance to go elsewhere, and it's also very transparent. It's not so, as Alexandra said, it's not so far away from school, because in school you are you have a schedule daily, and university nowadays it might be more like in former times, but I don't know exactly now in the moment, because it's 20 years ago that I left university, but it's really standardized, and you have a time schedule in your vocational training, and you have the payment salary, which I told before, that you can live in your own flat, for instance. And then you have, but it's also a point of discussion, job security. On the one hand, it's very safe because of lack of people, but on the other hand, it's also probably, it has probably the image that it's a little bit boring, but we want to show you that's not the case. Then weaknesses, there are some prejudices of parents, especially by parents who say, oh, okay, it's academic, should be the standard. And many parents, and at the end also their children, think it's has a lower place in society. Status has a big role. So we think there must be a different mindset in the society, because you see, in our lunchtime we talked about that if you have a house which has to be renovated, it's really, really difficult to find people who help you. And because it's so rare, the people who make it, and they will earn a lot of money. So it's not true that they earn less. So point which weakens also the vocational training is that there's a they miss good student life. As a student, you have parties and so on, but there is not such a big community of people who are doing vocational training. So it's something which is not so good for vocational training, that you don't have such life like a student. And you have probably, but this is what we don't think at the end, but many people think that it's the early choice of career, and that you are on this road and can't change the road, but that's not true. Everybody is free to change it with some degree, some degree in your bag. And then there's a level of payment afterwards in profession. It's not true in all, but it differs. There are some jobs, okay, that's like a cook, we thought, but in the end it differs. But many people think that you won't earn enough money, and probably ambitious people see too less challenges in those vocational training jobs. But there's also possible that you train yourself in different steps and can learn much more, and then also have many career chances. I think it would be better to go to this place than opportunities are that you have indeed good chances, because it's so rare that there are such a big lack. That you have flexibility between jobs. Additional education is possible, so it mustn't be the end of everything if you are at the end of the vocational training. You have enough opportunity, career opportunity, and here, and that's this point for the region, have really good life-work balance. It's a really good region, and so it's much nicer than probably in big cities where you have to pay a lot for rent, and here probably you don't earn such much money like in, for instance, Munich, but here it's a little bit cheaper, at the moment at least. And then you have a more clear focus for the task at hand, that you know what you are doing, and it's very clear. Whereas in a university career, you could do this and that, but then you work with your hands or have a good vocational training. And then there are some threats. One of our group told us that sometimes she saw some advertisements, come to this job and this, and it was very exaggerated. So it's not true life. And it goes a little bit like in the marketing measures. You should show the reality and not something which is not true. And then missing orientation, yes, one should already at school show the pupils what is possible. And then we had no succeeders. Okay, these are threats. If we can't cope with this, if vocational training is not sexy enough, then the business, the companies don't have succeeders, and this is a big problem also then for a region, for a city. And then there's a lack of attractive jobs after the training. This is what many people fear, but which is not the fact. And so I think Franziska now will present what we what is the conclusion of this, what we should do.
Okay. So knowing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats is always the first step in order to make a good marketing campaign. So this is what we figured. Of course, we would probably be able to come up with a lot of more examples if we had more time than 1 hour. And of course, in order to do a good campaign, this is what you would have to do. Look at it from all perspectives, look at all target groups, make a plan. I hope you understand that we don't feel that we have like the solution for everybody. However, as I said at the beginning, we are concentrating on vocational training, and what we need, or what the city needs together with the region, we figured, is a image campaign. An image campaign has a lot of components. We were trying to come up with really specific examples. The first one came from Alexandra. She was introducing a shadowing program that Riga uses.
Yeah, it's actually nationwide. I'm originally from Latvia, and Latvia tries to be a little bit progressive on the internet platform. So we have an internet platform, and the day it's called the Day of Shadow. And at that day, you may shadow anybody you like. So the pupils, who is from 16 till 19 years old, may follow one person the day long. And a lot of people are doing this, inclusive politicians from the government or the mayor of Riga. You can go to each company. The companies may list themselves on the internet page. For example, you're a Hotel Radisson, and you have 3 people who said they will be ready to do it. And you put yourself on this homepage, and there are like 5 pupils who would like to do it, so they write kind of a cover letter. As a hotel, you choose these 3 students, and they follow your workers through the day. So the pupils can learn and see with their own eyes what your all-day work will look like. what do you do first when you come to work, when you leave, how is your day, so they don't have these false impressions, what we said is a problem, and they can decide, am I ready for the life? And so you can show that also some jobs which you can get after vocational training are attractive and interesting.
So we thought that was a great idea, since we haven't heard about this before. So we were taking down notes for whatever comes up in Rostock. Okay, then the next thing was, let's not only look at companies that offer positions that you could try out, that we make it the other way around, that we give pupils the chance at an early age to make a wish list. Which companies would they really like to get to know? And just to make proposals. I mean, we were hoping that not everybody wants to see the mayor's office, and not everybody would like to see how the soccer players at the FC Hansa Rostock are doing, but hoping that we get a broad overview of what pupils are really interested in. So that was the next point. Afterwards, you can see here, we figured we need an image campaign, but now we turn it around, so this is all part of the image campaign, okay? Okay, so then a short film would be great, an image film. I was using the example of the Kulturhistorische Museum yesterday, which I thought was a really, really nice film. A film that you could feel, a film with emotions. Of course, it would have to be one exactly for the target group of young people, to make education by vocational training cool. Then we were also talking about a family day. That's nothing unusual in Rostock. This is taking place. So this is an important thing to get your family, your parents, your grandparents to go to this day with you. Then we were talking about an international exchange program. We all figured that 1 year or 6 months abroad is really healthy for young people's futures. We've all done it, and we really enjoyed the experience, and maybe there would be a possibility for a city or a chamber to organize something like that for the people, so that it doesn't mean that only students can go 2 years abroad, but also people from the vocational program. Okay. We were talking about a peer workshop, which means that lots of students, if I say students now, I always mean vocational training, that they get the chance to talk to each other, tell each other what their experiences were, just learn from each other. So it's nothing that only the teachers tell them, but they can talk about it among others. Also, the teachers, we figured, need more education and need just the knowledge to tell pupils that there are great chances to achieve with vocational training. We were talking about fairs. We do have that in Rostock, a Jobmesse, once a year, where companies have the possibility to show what they got. And we were talking about the vocational training trial lesson. That was a funny word. What was that again? We had to look it up. Schnuppertage. Ja, wir wollten Schnuppertage machen, genau. So pretty much have days at school, like specific days where they go out and can have a look at the at the field. Yes. Okay. Then we were thinking about social media, and we were talking about success stories that could definitely help. And in this context, we were talking about Klaus Ruhe-Matzen, who we were all listening to yesterday. And I heard something interesting.
That he sometimes a year visits companies, visits schools and talks with the pupils and tells them what he did after school and how he learned in Germany, and afterwards how he is founded his company and so on. And he always tells everybody, you have to know what you want, but you can reach everything. And that's really interesting, and it's a big motivator for pupils. And so one could find people who had a lot of success and go with them to schools.
Just in case this didn't come through, he didn't study. I didn't know that. So that's actually what he did. He was doing a Kaufmann for Einzelhandelskaufmann. So that's what he did. I didn't know that, so I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Okay. So of course online, we were talking about it yesterday, so many possibilities online. You could just have a blog. You could not only have success stories, speak to the people that are interested, but also the peers speaking to people. Make little videos, it's easy, just tell them their experiences. Hopefully they're all really good ones. You could use that for the marketing campaign. That's what I mean with everyday life videos. We were talking about a mouse door opener day.
Somebody know the mouse and the elephant, this orange mouse from German television. It's very famous at children at very old. I don't know exactly how many years old, 30 years old. And they have one day, it's the 3rd of October, it's a celebrating day, the bank holiday, and they open, everybody can, not private persons, they can open their companies, their institutions, and show what's going on. And that's very famous, and so it would be good for probably some actors in Rostock, also Chamber, I think, to open the door, but we don't have it yet.
So almost there. Of course, we cannot miss an Instagram account or a Facebook account. We just put this here briefly. It's not a complete list. Of course, there always have to be channels for teenagers, like nothing, too boring, but with nice pictures and good music and something that speaks to them. So now finally, last point and my biggest conclusion of the group. So thank you to everybody. We were talking about a city club. You know how the university always has an ASTA. It's a club, pretty much from students for students, and we could not think of something like this for the topic vocational training, and that's really too bad. We figured, because people, they have interests. Rostock is a great city to work or live in. We all figure that here. We like living here. But we don't have a tool to get all these people that are all doing the same thing together in one spot to exchange their thoughts, wishes, whatever they're doing every day. So we thought that would be a great idea for Rostock, and I don't know, and I'm interested if you guys have that in your countries. Have a club especially for this peer group. So that for me was like the biggest point. Yes.
Yeah, also because we mentioned like a weakness, this lifestyle that students have, this party going, socializing, learning the people from other cultures, because university nowadays it's always international. You can always meet the people from other countries, other cities, our nation and so on. And if vocational training, and Frau Zinsgraf also mentioned, you're like 2 or 3 persons in one firm. Okay, you can go to the bar in the night and that's all. You don't have these big crazy parties and a lot of socializing. This kind of club could actually allow it, and this lifestyle attractiveness will go up.
And you could use it for a marketing campaign, because you will get to know your peers better, and you are just having a possibility to combine it all. And of course, at the end, and we didn't get to that point anymore, it would be important to find a message that you would like to send. Our message, and that's just really easily said, is it's cool to do vocational training, and you can have a great future with it. So of course you got to keep on working about that.
Maybe you have some experiences in your countries or cities which you can share. Is it the same problem, or are we just doing here the German thing?
You were at and she told us from Finland.
What do you have in Finland? Which type of education? Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. I mean, because you have the vocational school, which then also it's an actual school system, so it's not training at the workplace as you do here. So it's an actual
school, like a normal school, and you
Yeah.
go there Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
sit there, let's say 8 hours, and
Yeah, they have flexible hours and it includes work periods, but it's a school system.
so it's like you go, let's say, first 2 hours to the lesson, and then you go to your employee firm and do there some practical stuff.
I mean, you have periods when it's just school, and then periods when it's like 2 or 3 weeks when you go to a workplace.
Okay, weeks divided.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I it's mostly school, and then I think less going to the workplace because it's based on the education at the school, and then
How long? How many years?
3 years. It's the same as for high school. Let's call it that for this purpose. And then going to the vocational school also grants you permission to study at University of Applied Sciences. So if you, for example, become, it's not a nurse, it's lower than a nurse from a vocational school, you can continue to become a licensed nurse, for example, at a hospital later on. So it grants you access to further study should you want it, but it also gives you a profession as you graduate from that.
And you don't have a lack of pupils who are interested to do that school instead of high school and university?
At least not to my knowledge. No.
Okay, so we should learn from the Finnish neighbor. And what about Estonia? I know you're slow, but maybe.
Somebody with a comment from Estonia? Raise your hand. I will come to you and find you.
Yeah. I know how you look.
I think my colleagues will will say the same as I will say. We do have the same problem as way too many young people are going to study in universities, and that makes lacking of people who are going to be in vocational education system. And sure, the vocational education system is not that sexy as you mentioned in our case as well. So, but I truly hope that one day it will change, because the state is going through one. What's it called now? Education reform, and we are trying to get more youngsters to vocational education schools to have proper. Now the word is missing. Occupation, not just working in marketing and project management and stuff like that. The real job is their hands-on. So hopefully it will change one day.
And is there a big difference in salaries after university studies work and after vocational studies work?
Sure, yes, it is.
A big?
Yeah, but I think nowadays, if you are a construction worker, since it's changing, because it's not too many people who are working in the construction field, so that's the market kind of changed. So that's if you have a lack of some sort of personnel, you have to hire with higher salaries. But sure, there is still a lack of a difference between salaries after when you are going to the university, and that's kind of. Maybe it's also so that if you go into a vocational education system, then sometimes people think that there must be something wrong with you. You are not so clever. If you some sort of maybe a little bit silly, but that's not really. And what we see in Estonia, that people who have done the education at universities, they have a nice education. They do go time to time back to the vocational education system to learn something really specific.
Yeah, we also thought that's a weakness in the state of mind of the people, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's something wrong with you, you are not that smart, so you couldn't do it to the university, that's why you're doing the vocational training. That's, in Germany, it's not the point, it's just in the heads. In reality, you can have a good job after vocational training, good career, and be a second Mr. Madsen.
I think in Estonia, like 10 or 15 years ago, there was a problem with those vocational schools that teachers weren't up to their best practices, and this is also changing. That's why people want to go there, and as you said, there are so many people who finish universities and they ask, okay, I have a master's degree in, I don't know, social sciences, but I want to do something real, and then they go back to school or a vocational school to do something new.
And are people supported somehow while vocational training? Do they get some money from the city or the state?
I think it's free. If you have to apply for like regular students, and in Estonia, after you have had some years after graduating other schools, then it's going to be free. But there are also some areas that you can pay for also, some shorter courses or something.
But still, the students, while going to vocational training, they stay in the family mostly? Like parents are paying your rent and food?
Depends, yeah.
Depends. Okay.
Because I think all our vocational schools are pretty good, student hostels also, and those schools are also widely spread all over Estonia, not only in Tallinn or in the bigger cities. They are also in the countryside, depending on the areas that they are teaching there.
Yeah, maybe everybody said something, maybe Lithuania, some couple of words about the topic, because so you don't feel excluded now.
No comments.
Okay, we will not push. Then I just want to say a couple of words from organizational point of view. I'm really sorry the heater broke. That's why you are freezing right now.
Can we still ask one question, or may I?
Yes, sure. Yeah. And after questions, you may go and have a warm coffee and tea. And I'm really sorry. And we're ready to answer the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I would like to hear from Anna what you thought about their social media plan or plan for this marketing for the campaign.
Good question. Thank you, Irene. Really nice question.
The plan looks awesome. So it really looks very good for me. And I know the problem because I also do some workshops for small industrial companies, even for one German bank, who also are always looking for trainees. And the problem, but as I said already, the people need to be respected for it. And the thing is, of course, absolutely fantastic idea to make a club, to offer them a community where can they exchange, also one unique selling point, if I may say so, from one company was that their trainees always go abroad. And it was a fantastic thing that if you come to us, so you will also be able to go abroad. So you will see Belgium, you will see other countries. As they are going to establish a blog, traveler blog of our trainees, and this is something which makes also them human in the kind of way. So I'm really excited to see what happens next.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna, and thank you for the group of business. So now we break for coffee, and hopefully that will keep you warm, also coffee and tea, for half an hour, and you can continue these discussions or other discussions on topics of your choosing there with the coffee and so. So let's be back in half an hour.